Here in western Georgia, the locals pride themselves in a very fine bass fishing spot called West Point Lake. Well, outside the town of Franklin, there's a mud pit they're very proud of as well, because that's where some of the top mud racers in the world are going at it. Hook, line, and sinker. We'll also tell you about the one that got away. This is Trucks and Tractor Power, featuring the all-stars of NMRO Mud Racing. Welcome to Trucks and Tractor Power on the National Network. Today we come to you from Franklin, Georgia for NMRO Mud Racing. Hi everybody, I'm Gary Lee alongside Army Armstrong, and we're only minutes from the Alabama state line at West Point Lake. And this area is recognized for spectacular bass fishing. But today, some of the best mud racers in the world are fishing for the big prize money in this all-star national event.
You know, Gary, it's kind of interesting. All the fishermen around the world, they have their special lures. They've got their own secrets. Well, this sport's no different because some of the secrets coming in this facility, they're going to be coming from Texas with George Gregory. Harbaugh comes out of Oklahoma. That's a young lady we got to keep an eye on. And, of course, Meeks out of Indiana. Keel comes from Michigan. And the old mud shark himself is going to be here, Mike Ederle. So let's see what they can do and who does have really the best secret in this sport.
All right, we'll go fishing in the mud after these messages. A sunny, hot, and humid day in western Georgia, Franklin, Georgia, at the Deer Creek Motorsports Park as the officials continue Army to work on this timing device. They'll time it to 1,000th of a second.
Well, you know, that timing device is awfully important as Gary Baker and his crew are putting it all together. This is the big event of the year. The first time a lot of these fellas have come together to chase these NMRO mud racing points, and everybody's serious that rolled into this pit area today, Gary.
And here is a local favorite from nearby McDonough, Georgia. This is Glenn Siebold.
Now, Glenn relies on a 454 cubic inch alcohol burning and supercharged Chevrolet engine. The body you're looking at looks like a stretched Jeep. What it is, it's a fiberglass replica of a Jeep. So all the Jeep fans are going to be pulling for this vehicle, as well as the Chevrolet people. He draws the #1 spot, all eyes on the Miller Jeep.
And the Miller American skims across the mud with those cut DOT 44 tires. A good run, 3.298.
So he's showing that the track can be awfully quick. I'm watching the front wheels, Gary.
Well, he knows this track very well. This is his home track. He's the 1990 points champion here at Deer Creek.
You know, there's actually, it's like, you know, you just hit on something that's really important there, the fact that the mud is different everywhere you go. Speaking of different, this young man last year was the national champion in the two-wheel drive category. Joe Gassner steps up to go with the four-wheel competition this week.
Well, this is the Mud Buster, a 377 cubic inch injected with nitrous oxide.
Trying to go quicker than 3.3.
And a good run. In fact, he's the quickest so far at 3.226.
So the track is looking awfully quick. By a quick track, it's got to be smooth to be quick in this sport. You notice he's not getting caught in anybody's ruts. The front end's staying real light on him. The front wheels just barely touch the ground, but those big old back tires are just clawing and scratching, aren't they, Gary?
Reminds me of a hydroplane walking across the water as the fans try to stay cool the best way they can here in western Georgia. Here's a good look at Shake Me, Tom Meek.
Gary, every sport has a driver like this. He's an attack driver. He will literally pull the trigger on you. He will just make you hold your breath. Whoa, he's in trouble now, Gary.
Well, he went right across the timing device. He was baling hay out there. He thought that thing was going to go on over. He was going for the cellar. You see him duck down in the cockpit. Obviously disqualified because he's out of bounds.
Boy, that's the way. First 50 feet, it looks good, and all of a sudden it hooks on him. Now he's trying to pull it back. Now he's at the mercy of Mother Nature. He's into that wall. He's got to follow it.
Well, you talked about the front end being light on these vehicles. He really does not have the proper control because the front end is so light.
Yeah, once it was up in the air, it's like steering the front wheels when you're doing a wheelie. It's just to no avail. And he was so light, and those big old back wheels kept pushing him.
Well, as we realign the timing device, let's talk to Tom.
First of all, Tom, are you okay?
Yeah, I'm fine.
What caused the accident?
I think the back tire grabbed a rut about halfway through and started pitching the car to the side.
What goes through your mind at a time like that? Do you have time to think about it, or are you just too busy reacting?
I just work on reactions alone.
Good luck to you.
Thank you.
And then when it's all over and the dust clears, you realize your heart beats about 1,000 miles an hour. Well, coming up next is the NMRO 1990 Car of the Year Destroyer 3. Army, I know you're very high on this driver and car combination, and before our competition, you got a chance to talk to Rick Keel.
Gary, as you know, any sport has a dominating vehicle. The Destroyer is the dominating vehicle in professional mud racing. Every world and national record that could possibly be held in the sport is held by the Destroyer. Rick Keel's the man that owns it. Rick, tell me, why do you make the horsepower you do, and you do not rely on the nitrous button like these other guys?
Well, we want something that makes a lot of power in the higher RPMs and that you can throttle and control the power more. And we found with the blower motors we can do that, and then we can also throttle the accelerator so that when we get ready to leave the line, just like pulling up a big rubber band, and when they let it go, it just keeps going and accelerating all the way through.
And there's a familiar name for all you drag racing fans. Boy, that guy can produce the horsepower. This is a 468 cubic inch big block Chevy and a 23 altered Ford, the Destroyer 3.
And the long wheelbase makes it a little bit more stable than some of the vehicles we've seen earlier. Time to beat's a 3.22. It'll be quick, Gary. Don't blink.
Well, he got in trouble immediately. It won't be that fast because he got out of that center of the lane.
A 4.08, Gary, but what I'm worried about is the rest of the field. Now, somebody's got to figure out how to get on top of these. Meek's got himself in trouble. The Destroyer comes out, bangs into the wall, gets himself in trouble. Where do you spot the vehicle if you're the next man in line?
Arby, you talked to him earlier. Let's talk to him after the run.
Well, Rick, when one gets out of shape like that, it looks like you're basically just hanging on and trying to get it out the end.
Yeah, there's not too much to salvage then.
What caused it to work its way over to the right like that?
There's some ruts out there. I really wanted to start way on the right, but the car was a little sideways, and then it would have a tendency to pull right away to the right, like Tom Mentz had almost. And
just real quick, is it a good track or a bad track?
I think it'll be a nice track. It gets a few more passes, and I think some of those ruts get out of here, and they'll blow some of them out, and it'll get a little bit more consistency to it. Right now, you got a few ruts here and there and all over, and there's a lot of high spots that I think are more than what you'll see a little bit later.
So I think what he's saying is, Army, the guys that drew for a later run may be better off with track conditions. As we take a look at Gaylord White in his 32 Ford Vicky, this is the cardiac arrest, and this is how he prepares for competition. Climbs in the race car and takes a nap.
Well, you know, why not?
Don't get too excited.
No, different things work for different people. He's getting ready to take a ride down some of the wildest 200 feet of clay in America, and he's asleep 2 minutes before he goes to the line.
The cardiac arrest. It's a 302 cubic inch with one carburetor, and not a very good hole shot on that one.
He's giving away a whole lot of horsepower, Gary. I think he knew that he wasn't going to be a player, but he wanted to come down and, you know, get the sticker on the window to show that he was there.
That car came out of there like the car was asleep.
Well, you know, he's having fun.
Look
like
at the vantage point here. Kick your feet up on a log.
The 23 body style comes out. Here comes another one of these bad boys. Tell us all about him. This guy even sounds ornery, and he's lining up way to the right side of the track.
Mike Fair out of Mishawaka, Indiana, the time traveler. He has those 44-inch cut groundhogs. For tires, the 540 cubic inch blowing Chevy.
Remember a moment ago, the driver of the Destroyer said he would have lined up a little bit to the right. This guy does and goes out the other end.
Yeah, good run, too, for Mike Fair. 3.317.
Now, Mike's a hired driver. This is not his vehicle. He's a hired gun. Let's see what he does is different than anybody else. He gets on top. But those ruts are still catching them, Gary. Look at that. They're still having to drive out the other end of the track.
And as the competitors talk about track conditions, let's go back down trackside and talk to Mike Fair.
Well, Mike, you go out and go at 331, but the track looked like it's porpoising on you.
Yeah, Army, the track's getting pretty rough. It's going to be hard to get a good pass down, and that's about the best you can hope for. The track's running, your car gets up in the air, you lose a lot of time.
Thanks a lot.
You bet, thanks.
Not the kind of run that Mike Fair had hoped for. He's the 1989 NMRO Cut Tire Points champion. More competition coming up as George Gregory talks over things. He drives the new breed. Welcome back to Trucks and Tractor Power from Franklin, Georgia, Deer Creek Motorsports Park. Gary Lee along with Army Armstrong, where Joe Ganser continues to lead in Mudbuster in the open class cut tire competition. Glenn Seabold second, Miller American. Mike Fair is third in the Time Traveler. Here's a good look at the Instant T. Chad Miller from Vandalia, Ohio, a suburb of Dayton. And they're looking on as Tom March, a 509 cubic inch Rodeck. providing the horsepower.
You know, Chad comes out in his 27 Roadster body and goes exactly opposite everybody else. He's gone all the way to the left side of the track. Whoa.
Not a bad looking ride, though.
But he backpedaled at half track, Gary. 351, and he backs out of the throttle. But it will work down the left side. It's a little bit smoother than everybody else's had, hasn't it?
So the other drivers are watching the competition to see what they do and where they do it from to get an idea of where they'll position their car. And looking on, Paula Harbuck, the 1990 Cut Tire champion. Let's talk to Chad Miller.
Well, Gary, as you well know, track conditions are important in any form of motorsports. And Chad, this looks like just a bad track to run on to me today.
Yeah, it's got some bad ruts in it and little humps, but that don't affect you too much. You got a good car and consistent, you can run down them bad ruts because that's what you build your car to. But we lost a blower belt there about 3/4 track. That's what really hurt us.
Okay, thanks a lot.
Thank you.
You can see that blower belt fall away there about as he indicated half track. As we take a look now at Rick Bales, the crew chief for the new breed out of Tyler, Texas. George Gregory drives that one. And Arma, you had an interesting observation from the vantage point of a crew chief.
Being a crew chief in any form of motorsport carries a lot of responsibility. The man that shoulders responsibility for the defending world champion George Gregory operation is Rick Bales. Now, Rick, your job is a unique one in the fact that you're the man that reads the gauges on this vehicle.
Correct. We have 3 different gauges in here. One's attack, so we know what kind of RPMs we turn. The other's oil pressure, so we know whether our oil pressure's good or bad, or if we got to change a bearing. And the third's the cylinder head temperature gauge, which we use to indicate what the temperature was at the end of the pit. So if we know whether we had too much fuel or not enough fuel.
Okay, let me ask you, why does the driver not read this? Why do you read them?
I like my driver worrying about one thing, driving only. That way he's got one thing in mind, to go out and win and do the best he can without anything else in his mind.
496 Janky engine power, the new breed, perhaps the most expensive rig here this afternoon, but he did not mention one gauge, did he?
Yeah, I just noticed that. There's a gauge on the back of the blower to tell the amount of boost that they're running on the engine, and he just acted like that didn't exist. But it was the last gauge he looked at before walking away from the vehicle.
Open cockpit. George Gregory, a member of the 2-second club. If there's something to be done in mud racing, I think this man has done it. There's the time to beat, 3.226. Sticks his pedal down.
Man, that's impressive.
Look at that, 3.018. He does it, 3.018, and he goes to the head of the class.
Well, Gary, that puts him number 1. Let's see if he can stay there.
Well, you're down there. You've caught up with George Gregory.
George, a 301 on a hot afternoon. That's not bad.
I don't know what we're going to have to do. I think our motor just laying down on us. It's been in there well over a year. It needs to be worked on.
Well, he's not too excited for just having taken the lead, so let's see now what happens with Ron Pence.
This may be the reason he's not excited. Ron Pence has been on a roll lately. He just won a USA Motorsports National Championship last week in Lexington, Kentucky, and everybody knows he can lay a number on you. Let's see what happens. 301. Boy, what a ride. Transmission or something like that.
So close. Oh, so close, but not close enough. 3.168. Boy, he was bouncing across the top of that mud.
Taking a ride. These guys are kind of like student kamikaze pilots. Once they leave that starting line, man, they got to fly out the other end, no matter what.
76 Love truck with a 572 cubic inch big block Chevy. Arma, you're down there with one of the real famous names in this sport.
Well, Ronnie Pence, everybody was worried about you, watching you make your run. You had the same problem everybody else did. It's porpoising on you out there.
Yeah, pit's getting a little bit rough out there.
Did you do any damage to the vehicle?
Well, I got a drive shaft broke in the rear and the front axle broke.
So when it bounces like that, it's biting and letting go and biting and letting go, and it's braking vehicles.
Right. Yeah, it's tearing them up. When they come down, it puts a lot of strain on them.
Okay. Sorry you didn't have better luck today.
All right, thank you.
Well, a rough track can make for an expensive track. Here's one of the more unique creations here today. This is the Stinger Dragster with Michael Atkins.
You know, Gary, what makes this vehicle unique is the wing on the back. He doesn't rely on the front tires biting at all. He wants to push the rear wheels into the ground. That's what the wing's for. The faster he goes, the more pressure goes down on the back tires. The front tires he could care less about. Time to beat, a 3:01.
Oh, he loses the right rear tire. Not fast enough at 3.261. He has been much faster in this creation, though, but not today.
You know, he had a bead lock on that wheel and still slung it off, Gary.
A 3.261, not good enough to beat the new breed's 3.018. Let's take a look again and see where he slings that right rear off.
Okay, now watch the tire grow right there. See it come out? That was it. He was just slinging it around. That vehicle used to be a two-wheel drive. They just converted it over the winter. He's trying to get the handle on it. Not a bad run. The track is what's causing the problems. The vehicles are looking good. But they're just getting beat to death out there.
Well, there's a good low shot as we ride back to the pit area. And here is Tony Ferrotti in a 27T Roadster. It's called Let's Boogie 2.
Tony also relies on the wing. You notice on the vehicle, that wing is awfully important. It's not cosmetic. It's to actually plant the horsepower in the back of the vehicle to the track. And it does. It did its job.
Those big groundhog cut tires propelling him down 200 feet at 3.280. Fast, but once again, not fast enough.
Beautiful 27 Roadster that goes by the name of Let's Boogie. They're just getting tossed around. They're all making horsepower. The chassis are working. Mother Nature has got the trump card today. It's called ruts.
Well, in some performances, we've seen it's advantageous to go late in the competition. Not so today. Here she is, Paula Harbuck, in Flirting with Disaster.
She and her crew have been sitting on the start line all day long trying to figure out where to put the truck, where to mark the groove. She said, hey, let's just take a shot down the middle.
Oh, a good shot indeed, but not quite fast enough. 3.190. 3.190, and George Gregory continues on top the heap at 3.018. That run for Paula good for third as we look at a future track official or perhaps a television producer with his stopwatch there. Let's talk to Paula Harbuck.
Well, Paula, the run looked awfully good, but it kept working its way to the right towards the end of the track.
The pit's really going away bad. It's rutting up bad. There's a hole right out there, and when you hit that hole, it just works its way over. It's just one of those things we thought we'd try. It might get a little bit better, but had to give it a shot or we'd never know.
Well, as we add some more water, make it sloppier out there, George Gregory continues to lead the new breed. Then it's Ron Penson-Tater and Paula Harbuck in Flirting with Disaster. But don't forget, still lurking out there is the Mud Shark. It's lunchtime in western Georgia from Franklin, Georgia at Deer Creek Motorsports Park. We have two more combatants to take a shot at that man right there, George Gregory, the new breed. He has the top spot this afternoon, but coming up, a brand new creation for Larry D'Antoni.
This is a brand new vehicle. Larry just picked it up. It's one of the new Power Pro Racing chassis. He's going after 301 to try to get into this thing. I wonder what's going through his mind. Brand new vehicle, Keith Black for horsepower. That kid's not afraid to drive
quick
it.
run. No, he pulled the trigger. Good run, but not quite fast enough at 3.152.
First time in the car. It shows a lot of trust in the chassis builder to drive on that hard right out of the box. But you got to play the game. You got to play the game here.
Well, he gave that thumbs up, then nailed the hammer. A good ride. But still, George Gregory remains on top in the new breed.
Well, when we opened the class, we talked about a vehicle, and there's only one left in the class, Gary. The Shark is lurking in the pit area.
The Mud Shark will be the next up. That will be Mike Erderly. Buchanan, Michigan, the hometown. The Mud Shark, a 64 Corvette funny car with a 525 Keith Black Hemi.
The wild child of mud racing. This guy's good. He's like a street fighter. He'll come after you in a heartbeat. 301's what he's going after. Whoa!
He's in trouble. And did he get out of bounds? He may get disqualified. He may have been out of bounds.
I don't know, Gary. I had my eyes shut and running in the opposite direction.
I think he had his shut too. Let's look again, coming right at you. The final run of the afternoon, and well, yeah, he got the timing right there. Disqualified. He was out of bounds. That means George Gregory wins it. However, Mike's had a chance to collect his thoughts. He's down there with Army.
Just shaking a little bit here.
Well, Mike, he come over to me. He just said he's still shaking a little bit. I don't blame you after a ride like that. It looked like there's nothing you could do but just hang on and try to push it out the back end.
Well, the track was pretty rough, Army. You know, everybody's been having trouble all day. I just looked for the best spot I could find on the starting line and turned her loose. Did the best I could.
This is an interesting sport because once you leave that starting line, there's no caution laps. There's no second chance. You've just got to go.
You've got one shot, and if you don't do it, you put it on the trailer.
Well, Well, that's exactly where the Mud Shark is going now, because he finishes out of the top 3. George Gregory takes the new breed to victory here. Larry D'Antoni with that brand new Team Power Pro is second, and Ron Pence and Tater takes third. Here's Army.
Well, George Gregory, the luck of the draw had a whole lot to do with this today. Luck plays a part in any kind of motorsport, doesn't it?
It sure does. Pit was, well, we had a little smoother run. The pit got rough and it got beat dry, and dry mud doesn't have any weight to it, so luck of the draw, and our car run pretty fair.
Our congratulations to George Gregory. That will wrap it up from Deer Creek Motorsports Park here in Franklin, Georgia. For Army Armstrong, I'm Gary Lee. We'll see you next week on the next edition of Trucks and Tractor Power. Now stay tuned for news of an exciting new home video from Diamond P Sports.